Hi YouTube, it's Catherine Michelle. I'm not going to be covering anything that needs a warning, at least I don't believe I will be today. Today I'm going to be talking to you about some of the things. If you remember in the last video, I pointed to what's behind me because I think the world needs to know that how serious we are about this case and all of the things we have found wrong. Well, not all. This is just going to be some. Here's my list. This page, this page, this page, and then this one. We'll be going over each one of these for right now. And again, this isn't everything. This is just a small portion of what I have picked up and what I've noticed in this case. First of all, it's going to be the body positions. All were moved. Every single body. I know I said at first that I believed Komel had died in the position she was lying. After going over the police reports and the autopsy report, I no longer believe that. Since her sweater is lying on top of David's leg, obviously he was probably placed there first. I mean, otherwise how could the sweater and then, yeah. That's my thought right now. The second one is the amount of dog feces in the basement. It shows that the dogs, plural, were locked down there for a period of time. The dog feces, the amount of dog feces downstairs compared to upstairs is night and day. Downstairs it's everywhere, it's just a huge mess. And then that leaves the food and the water for paleo. The reports state that there was fresh, I don't know how fresh it could be, but fresh water and food in a dog dish. And we all know that the back door was open. Okay? And the police figured that within 2 hours, this was a murder-suicide. Let me read from their report. We will get it straight from the horse's mouth. Let's see, it gives the police officer's name. It says, let me get this over here so I can read it. And this is a quote from the news article in the Twin Cities Pioneer Press. What was the date? Let me see if I get the date of this article. Published for the first time January 19th, 2016. Updated November 16th, 2017. And it states, what it all adds up to is this... okay, let me start over. What it all adds up to is this was a guy who snapped. Apple Valley Police Chief John Reitzel? Okay, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Sorry, I'm sure I butchered it. To cross that line, to go to that level of violence, and this is domestic violence, make no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, you take the lives of your daughter and your wife, and besides that, you're writing things on the wall in blood. Nobody thinks to do that unless they're really of a deranged mind at that point. The Apple Valley Police recently closed the case, which included a year-long examination of the Dakota County Electronic Crimes Task Force into 16 hard drives found in the home in the 1000 block of Ramsell Drive. Now, it's important to note that when they did the investigation, the electronics investigation, I believe that was Detective Klonikos. If I'm saying his name wrong, again, I probably am, sorry. He found zero motive in any of those hard drives. Right now they're writing, this reporter is only getting information. He's only writing what he's getting. And what he's getting is only partial information. But the hard drives contained zero motive. A copy of the 94-page police file released to the Pioneer Press sheds light on the mindset of David Crowley before the police say the Owatonna, Minnesota Indian names, Minnesota native killed his wife and daughter. Despite the grisly scene, investigators concluded within 2 hours that David Crowley was the one who pulled the trigger of the .40 caliber Springfield handgun found next to his body. 2 hours. They walked in. Now, in the way that this article is written, again, I'm not sure what information. I have spoken with Nick Ferraro, and he seems to be a very fair-minded individual. I don't think he would slant an article on purpose. I do believe he's writing from what he obtained. However, I'm not sure he got the part where the gun itself is not found next to his body. Now, if you remember, David is sprawled out like this. And so he's lying like this on his back. My computer, for some reason, just wants to not get everything in. So he's out like this. Now imagine his arms hanging out. The gun is located, they said, inches within his left hand. So it's spread out pretty far. It's not near his body. It's near his left hand, inches from. Now keep in mind, he's right-handed, and his right hand is missing. But somehow, he supposedly shot himself in the head, and the gun ends up over by his left hand on the other side of the book. Doesn't happen that way, folks. Does not happen. But yet the police, we'll leave that alone. The writing on the wall. The writing in the blood. And this to me is what, other than the position of the bodies, right when I saw how they were laying, I knew right away it was not a murder-suicide. This was a murder family, and this was completely staged. The writing on the wall for one of them. As we'll go in later, I'll go into a little bit more detail about that later, discussing the writing on the wall. There's a lot of stuff about that people haven't thought about. The open Quran passages and what they mean. Now, what is being told and what was given to the news reporters isn't true. I would have thought that the police department would have contacted someone of the Muslim faith to have that interpreted. Just a little tidbit of information on that. The chapter that it was open to, that chapter is actually titled The Spider. And it's more when, and I will be posting somewhere, either it will be on Facebook for one, and I'll try to get it posted on here too, but this entire chapter, it's not about a prayer of forgiveness for their sins, which is what they've been telling you. That's not it at all. They're so far off the mark. And I've gotten that information straight from a Muslim person who is active in their faith, and they read it to me from the Quran, and they explained what it meant. Okay, so it's not at all what they're telling you it means. That's highly important, because they tried to use that as one of their main reasons, like, oh, he killed himself and it's a prayer of forgiveness, so forgive me what I did. This is what they're telling you it means. That's not at all what it means. It's more talking about how the non-believers are mocking the prophet and saying, you know, well, if you really have a God, and if he's really there, have him come, you know, send him to us or have him take care of us. That's just a gist of what this means. And again, with the title of this particular chapter being called The Spider, and I know some people have said that they believe this could be a government hit. It very well could be, mixed with maybe the government hired these yahoos to do this, and they did a pretty lousy job. This is like one of the worst I've ever seen, because if you know, the government's deep web is called the spider web. Now, isn't that kind of interesting? The government's deep web called the spider web, and the book that's open to on a chapter that's called, it's titled The Spider. It was pretty eye-opening. We'll go more into that at a different time. And the next one is the behavior of Dan Jr., Sean Wright, Mason Hendrix, and others after the deaths. It was noted by several people how Dan Jr. was not acting correct. They were saying, and this is hearsay now. You have to understand, right? What I'm saying to you at this point is hearsay, because I didn't see it, but I'm just relaying to you what has been said on paper. And they were saying that it was acting really weird, and he wasn't acting like a grieving brother, and he was acting more like a guilty person. Now, again, you have to understand, that's hearsay, and that's alleged. That was their view of what they saw Dan doing. Because, again, we can't come out, I won't come out and say, they did it, because, again, that is slander, and that is defamation of character. But I will say who I think is a definite person of interest. And the persons of interest for me right now, what I have been able to whittle down, are Dan Jr., Sean Wright, Mason Hendrix, and possibly people who know about this. Could be, and again, this is just what I am thinking. It's not necessarily true, and I'm not pointing fingers. But by doing this process of elimination, I'm thinking other family members had to have known or knew about it after, so they're not saying anything. You know, that is my take on it, because I can't tell you how many times a family member will lose a child, a sibling, a parent, and they know a child, a sibling, or a parent did that particular murder, and they will cover it up because they've lost one family member. They can't stand to lose two. So it's not beyond the realm of possibility that the other family members on one side or the other knew about it, and do know about it, and are not saying anything. Okay, the other is the missing body parts. Most of them were never found. There were a few digit bones found, but that was it. In all three bodies are missing blood. Here's where we're going to talk about the blood on the wall. All three are missing blood. Lividity was absent or not discerned in all three bodies. Now, lividity doesn't disappear. It stays within the tissues. So as they're slicing and okay, I know that sounds gross, but as the autopsies are being done, the medical examiner should have been able to determine and see lividity at some point in that body. And every single one, not there. Now, Komel's blood was used to write on the wall. And when you look at the scene and you look at their writing, read their writing and look at the scene, there was no dripping. There were no drops of blood from her body on the couch to the wall. When you see how much blood is on that wall, if he was going from here to there would be drops, huge drops of blood. And so my what I've been wondering, especially after doing Komel's autopsy report, actually before that, but I was wondering if they were bled, and that's what I said where they bled out. Did they collect her blood in a bucket or in something, and then after they place the bodies, they then take this blood? Because again, you have to remember, there's no drips. Her body's right there on the floor. If she had died there and had bled out there, there's no blood underneath her, there's no blood on the couch where her body is located, nothing. It's clean. So obviously they had to have collected it. It's the only thing that they could have done, is collected it. Then they take that, and did they use David's severed hand to write on the wall? Now, some people say it doesn't look like a hand. Some people say it looks like it's made to look like a hand, or a hand wrapped in a scarf or something. But it doesn't matter. They still took this blood, her blood, that they obviously took from her body, and it had to have been before she died, because it's pretty hard to exsanguinate a body after death. Pretty difficult. You have to really know what you're doing. So think about this. Again, start using your brain. And these police officers did not do that. If they figured this case out within 2 hours, and I have that news article, they obviously didn't think about it. So, and then how did David get her blood? How did he do this? There are no obvious cut marks. There's no obvious areas where he could have drained it. If he had done that, it would be obvious. And there was a knife found at the scene, which was found right by his leg. The gun, which does not have his fingerprints on it, when they did a latent print test, his fingerprints are not on the gun, but yet his blood and the little girl's blood is on it. On the knife blade, which was by his leg, all three of their blood is on that knife blade, but yet no fingerprints. Hello? That means somebody's using a glove, and it wasn't David, because why would he put on a glove, cut them all up or whatever, take a glove and shoot everybody and then take the glove off and his hand disappears? Again, there was no logic or investigation techniques used in this case at all. None. I'm calling you out, Apple Valley Police Department. I'm calling you out right now. You did a completely lousy job in this case. You make me mad. The police say the bodies had been lying there for 3 weeks, yet the decomposition shows 10 days at most. Again, you determined it was 3 weeks that they were lying there, when the autopsy reports clearly show you are wrong. You're freaking wrong. Police say there was no signs of forced entry, yet the back door is open. And if the murderer were friends and family, there wouldn't be forced entry. Now would there? They would have just walked in or been invited in or come in the back door and took them by surprise, and there would be no forced entry. Did you think about that aspect? No. When there are several who actually have reason, a motive to do these crimes. But no, you couldn't think about that. No. It was murder-suicide, right? The articulating skull bones don't show scavenging. Explain that one. You say, and you're trying to convince us, a dog ate these people. The dog ate the skull. But yet we have parts of bone broken that fit together, fit with the back of the skull, with no scavenging because they fit perfectly. And yet a dog did that. Really? No, they didn't. No, they did not. You need to explain why. You should have found out why. Why didn't you have a forensic anthropologist put this head back together? But it's too late now, right? They were cremated. It's too late. However, I'm going to continue. The autopsy doesn't show dissection of the intestines. Now, why is that important? Because if you want to determine time of death, we know that Komel and Raniya, however her name is said, pronounced, I mean, and I don't know. The digestive process follows like decomposition. It follows a timeline. They knew David's stomach was empty, but they didn't check to see if there was any food in his intestines to find out when his last meal was. They could have easily done that. Same thing with Komel and the daughter. They found food in their stomachs, but that's as far as they went. So that tells me they don't want to know time of death. They did everything they could to avoid time of death because that time of death would have made null and void their accusations of murder-suicide. Packages weren't noticed. They were not noticed until January 10th. That was the first time anybody says they saw them sitting on the doorstep. Yet, Dan Jr. says he dropped them off on December 28th. Really? Don't think so. The alleged footprints are mostly of the right foot and are only of the top of the so-called foot. There is no sole, no heel, no left foot. So if David did this, you mean to tell me he hopped around everywhere on just the sole of his right foot? Come on. Don't be so freaking stupid. And right now you're being stupid. Oh! Apparent blood spatter in the sink in the master bathroom was not swabbed and it wasn't tested. The police stated that they didn't think it was blood, so leave it alone. Now, I've seen a lot of blood spatter. That looks like blood to me. They didn't test it. Now they didn't test it. Now we'll never know. The next one. Chris Klein said he was with Dan Sr. when he noticed the bullet hole in the ceiling. A month after the police, the medical examiner, the lab testers, other family members, everybody's in this house, and nobody noticed the bullet hole in the ceiling until Chris Klein, a month later, goes into the house when he had no business being there. He said he was with Dan Sr., David's father, and all of a sudden he finds this bullet hole. He calls the police. The police come in, go up in the attic, and they find a bullet. Really? Wow. Okay. Either you guys are the stupidest thing on the planet, you're all freaking blind. I don't think that's it. I think that who else could have done it? Chris Klein, you're looking pretty guilty at the moment. How did that bullet hole get there, and why did you lie about being with Dan Sr.? Dan Sr. says he was not with you that day. He wasn't there, but yet that was your testimony to the police, or your statement to the police. It was a lie. Either you're lying, Dan Sr.'s lying. Either way, it doesn't look good for either one of you. Okay, and then we have the little girl's fractured rib. Was it fractured before or after death? The autopsy wasn't done enough to state. At least they sure didn't put that in the report, not the one that we saw, and they could have easily done so. They state and show a fractured rib. Who did it? How was it done? The dog did not fracture her rib. So if the dog didn't do it, that only leaves the murderer. There you go. Obviously, David didn't do it. No motive was found for David, yet there are motives when you look at, again, this is my speculation. I am not accusing. I am speculating. This is alleged. The motives show motives for Mason Hendrix, Dan Jr., Sean Wright, and it all had to do with money and jealousy. Lots of money was involved. They all stood to lose money. Again, not saying, so don't tell me I'm accusing you. I am saying that it is alleged, and I can do that because I do it on the news. So if they can say alleged, I can say alleged. The first person to suggest murder-suicide was Judy Prochnow when she made her 911 call. She was the one who states, "Oh, I think he killed them and then killed himself." What does she know? She was a neighbor who inserts herself later on down the line, who admits at the beginning that she hardly ever knew them, didn't really talk to them a whole lot. But now she goes and she says, I think I see mannequins, but wait, they're bodies, and I think he killed them and then killed himself. Really? And police officers, was there a script? Did you guys get a script? You make me sick. Next one. The bodies were found on January 17th, 2015, around 1 p.m. The medical examiner, Dr. Lelinski, did not show up until 12 o'clock in the morning on the 18th. That is 11 hours later. 11 hours. And she stayed for 45 minutes. And she left. Now, you cannot convince me she walked in and even did work for 45 minutes. They sat around and probably talked. How do I know this? I was an EMT. I know what people do at scenes. 45 minutes is not enough to investigate anything. She probably went and looked and said, oh yeah, bullet hole. Yeah, bullet hole. Yeah, could be a bullet hole. Hey, let's just get this wrapped up. That's what it appears to me to be. You can't do. Dr. Lelinski could not have done a proper investigation of 3 bodies within 45 minutes. Nope. Doesn't happen. Murder-suicide was the official cause of death within 2 hours of testing. I think I already read that to you where he said within 2 hours. That was the police chief. No testing was done of the handwriting to compare David's to the writing on the wall and the writing on the tablet. Now, I'm going to be showing you guys in another video David's handwriting. And when you see his handwriting and then you look at the handwriting on the wall, it doesn't match. It's like looking at a kindergartner's handwriting compared to someone who does perfect calligraphy. The difference is that varied. But yet they didn't test it. Why? Probably because it would prove their theory wrong. No gunshot residue was found on any of the victims. That right there tells you it wasn't David. If David had shot them, he would have GSR all over his clothes. They would have GSR all over their bodies, their clothes, their hair, and even the little girl who wasn't eaten. And that should tell you something too. You have 2 adults whose skulls are really hard, who were mangled skulls. And you want us to believe the dog did it. And yet you have a little girl. And I don't mean to be gross here, but her skull is soft. It would have been easier. And it was exposed just as much. Yet her face isn't touched. That tells you volumes of whoever did this. They were angry at Komel. They were angry at David. But I think the little girl either came into something or she had to die because she knew the person who did this. Person or persons who did this. And right now, my list of persons of interest are at least 3. And my persons of interest who I allege, covering my tracks, because I'm not saying they did it. Everything I'm doing right now is pointing to Dan Jr., Mason Hendrix, and Sean Wright. Could be others, could be neither of them, could not be any of them. But again, that's where it's pointing to. The footprints weren't tested. I mean, they took them, they did their little powdery thing on them, but they weren't tested. They don't know whose footprint that was. Again, no fingerprints were found on the gun or the knife. Missing limbs and a knife at the scene, yet this was never investigated. Why? Oh, wait a minute. Doesn't fit your theory, does it? Yeah, I'm pretty pissed. And the vulgar intimidation tactics by Sean Wright? Listen, dude, your mouth is filthy. And your so-called fiance? I don't see how she could put up with you. And now this is personal. This is between you and me, Sean. You're disgusting, you're vulgar, and you need to wash your mouth out with the bar soap. You think you can intimidate people by calling them an effer and calling me the C word and a B word and an M-effing B word? Really? You don't know me, but I know you. I know you by how you speak. And you, my dear man, you stuck your foot in it big time. It's all over. Your footprint is everywhere in this. And it's because of what you have said and what you are doing. There. Yeah, you are a person of interest to me. I've said it. No help from family or friends. Not one bit. Everybody has accepted this so-called theory, hook, line, and sinker. Why? Sidra, now this is her sister, and I know she's devastated by the death of her sister. However, she admits to lying about her conversation or why she had the police go there. Let me find that for you and read it to you. This is what during a discussion with a Joe Sigur, S-I-G-U-R, I don't know, and he's a jerk. Oh my gosh, his questions are leading and totally inappropriate. And how she put up with most of these questions, I don't know, because if I was her, I would have hung up on him or just told him to go away. But he keeps trying to ask leading questions about were they into drugs, was it speed, did drugs tip the scale for a crazy murder? This guy's just way all over the place. And then she's writing back. Now, how these texts go where she answers questions, and it doesn't always flow correctly because he's asking lots of questions, and it's like she's asking some, like previous one. But anyway, her answer to one of these is, so naturally I felt that something was off, so that's why I called the cops to come check out the car. It had nothing to do. It was a fabricated story. And when the police got there and arrived, they left because they could find nothing. They found nothing to back up what was being said. Allison lied about David and Komel pulling away from the family. In an email between Allison and Komel, Allison is telling Komel that she sent David a scathing, nasty email cussing David out. And they both need to get in touch with their mom, blah, blah, blah. And Komel writes back, and she was very polite. That woman must have been a saint, because I would have ripped this Allison's head off. Komel writes back and says, you know what? You're wrong. We've contacted Mom. Mom has our phone numbers. We've been in touch. So this whole theory about them pulling away and angry at the family is all an utter lie. Shame on you, Allison, for putting this out there that this is what it was. Shame on you. When you know full well that wasn't it. Shame on you, police, for going out there and pushing that agenda that they had pulled out away and that they were crazy and David had somehow mind controlled her. None of that is proven by anything you have given as evidence. Everything you have provided in your reports and in the testing and in people's conversations about this family prove that that theory is wrong. You know, yes, they were mad because David and Komel were on their own and they decided they weren't going to be, you know, led around by the nose by their families anymore. You know, David was upset with his family, and rightly so. He has a sister who's cussing him out all the time, trying to tell him what to do, being manipulative. You have a brother who has treated him like trash from a young age. And you have Komel's sister who is trying to jump in the middle of things. Now, reading what she wrote, I don't think she honestly sees where she was way out of line, but I think what she did was out of love for her sister. This is my take, but she did it wrong. And her sister said, hey, back off. Now, if one of my family members had called the police, they showed up at my door, and then we have this little talk, and they're like, the police go, hey, there's no reason to be here. Everything's fine. The cops leave. And then you come to my house? You think I'm going to let you in my door? And then you go around and you tell everybody that they wouldn't let you in, and you're glad you didn't go in because who knows what would have happened to you? Are you kidding me, Sidra? Are you kidding me? You called the cops on your family, and then you wonder why they won't let you in. I wouldn't have let you in either. And your sister left a picture on the dash, and this is supposed to be, ooh, so, you know, telling of how she was manipulated. What she was saying to you is she was hurt by your actions, that she loved you because you were her sister, and don't hurt her family. It was her family. You say that she wasn't acting like how you were raised. She was doing exactly how you were raised. You were raised with family first, with love and honor. That's what she was doing with her husband. Her husband first, her family first, with love and honor. And you did not respect that. And instead, you want to slander it, and you want to twist it to make it like David was some kind of monster. They were building their own home, and neither family side was happy with that. Shame on all of you. All of you. Oh. Dan Jr. says he saw Paleo in the window, but no bodies, but he didn't see any bodies. Now, if you've seen that crime scene photo, you know that's not possible. Where he would have had to stand, or where he could have gone to even see the dog, or where the dog could have been so he could see it, you would see the bodies. Besides that, they weren't even there. And January 28th, which he says the day he dropped them off, which is a flat out lie, because not one neighbor, not one noticed them until January 10th, where those packages dropped off. Why are you lying, David? Dan, I'm sorry, David. I'm so sorry. Why are you lying, Dan? Why? I'd like to hear that. And the police say he snapped. Let me read you something from, I believe it's from Mason Hendrix. Hold on a second. I got to find this because it's highly important. Where is that? Oh, geez, I hope I didn't close it out. Oh, no, I think I did. Shoot. And it's just, I don't have enough time now to find that. Oh, wait. Maybe it's right here in this article. Oh, and talk about the GoFundMe page, where Dan set that up asking for $6 million, when Sidra herself says that was uncalled for, and she told him to take that down, and that he was trying to make it sound like, oh, the families were so close. And Sidra says they hardly ever talked. They didn't even really know that family. That's a huge red flag to me. Should have been to the police, too. The part where... Anyway, I believe it was... I wrote down the name... Hendrix, Mason Hendrix. It says I have it in a news article. Which news article is that? Hold on, it's really, really important. because he said that David was not the kind of person to snap. It wasn't who he was. He knew him, and that would be something he would never ever do. Again, I have stuff. There's just so much. It's not even funny. Oh my goodness, I did have it. I'm sorry. I will have to find that the next time, and I will read exactly what Mason Hendrix said, because he's flat out says that that's not who David was. He's not the kind of person who would snap. He loved his wife and his child. So the police's little quick, their little quick fix within 2 hours, they figured all this out. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit your plan. You say that he snapped, and Chief Wrights or whatever your name is, and yeah, I'm upset at the Apple Valley Police Department. You know why? Because they're all zipped their lips. Not one of them have called back and said anything. They all keep their mouths shut. They tied it up in a bow. They have zero evidence to back up their theory. Zero evidence, none whatsoever. They have evidence to prove and point at several other different directions. Not one of them point back to David, and they refuse to even answer that. Now here's something that I'm going to end with. Keep in mind, people, I have given you 2 full pages, and this is only the beginning. I stopped because my hand couldn't take writing anymore. Here's what David told one of his friends in November of 2014. He said, "If I end up dead, I am not suicidal." Yet, his friends and family and the police, that's all they've ever said was he was suicidal. And he made it a point to state, "If I end up dead, I'm not suicidal."